The environment is very important, not only for human health, but for survival. Simply put, it will virtually become survival of the fittest if there is no clean air, water and land to live on. Now, this reality therefore places a huge responsibility on humans to protect the environment. So important is this that 5th June every year is set aside to commemorate the World Environment Day, engaging governments, businesses, celebrities and citizens to focus their efforts on pressing environmental issues. Now this year the theme is celebrating biodiversity, a concern that the United Nations says is both urgent and existential. Now recent events from bushfires in Brazil, the United States and Australia to locust infestations across East Africa, and now a global pandemic demonstrates the interdependence of humans and the webs of life in which they exist. This is our focus on Nigeria Today. Welcome to the program. I'm Victor Azu. Now joining me to speak further on World Environment Day is Professor Alhassan Maman Mohammed. He is of the Department of Geography and Environmental Management, University of Abuja. Now, Professor Mohammed is also a member of the Nigerian Environmental Society. Welcome to Nigeria Today.
Thank you, viewers, and happy World Environment Day.
Okay, and also here with us is Ibrahim Goni, Conservator General, National Parks Service. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much, viewers, and NTA, thank you for having me.
Okay, let me begin with Prof. What exactly is the manner of relationship that exists between humans and the environment?
Well, environment is our natural habitat and provides all our needs. We derive all our needs from the environment, and as such, everything on our planet Earth is interconnected. So if an aspect of the environment is affected, it affects also the various components of the environment, be it the land we live in, the water we need for our sustenance, the air we breathe, and then the resources that sustain life on Earth.
Okay. Let me move over to the Conservator General. What are the major concerns when it comes to Nigeria regarding the environment?
Thank you very much. The major concerns, if it comes to Nigeria concerning the environment, those things that faces us in the eyes concerning how we manage our environment and relate with other organisms in the environment. In this case, Nigeria is struggling to attain the IUCN standard of 25% of its land area under forest cover. Now, as at now, only 6.7% of the total land area of Nigeria is covered by forest.
That's still a long way to go.
That's still a long way to go. Prior to this time, we used to have a percentage of up to 12%. But because of the concerns you have mentioned, bushfires, logging, hunting, habitat destruction, this percentage has gone down to this level. But all hopes are not lost. According to a survey by Global Forest Watch 2019, Nigeria and perhaps West Africa has gained in the area of afforestation, meaning the afforestation has reduced. Whereas countries like Brazil, Malaysia, Cambodia, and Democratic Republic of Congo lost between 2017 and 2018, seriously, a lot of them. Currently, Nigeria is picking up from 2019 to date. The situation in our habitat or in our environment is something that one can say is a hopeful situation.
And what percentage can we place it at now, as we speak?
As at now, I have told you, it's 6.7%.
Still 6?
Still 6.7%.
With all the gains?
With all the gains.
Uh-huh.
We should be thankful that it has not gone down.
All right.
Yes.
Now, let's stay with Nigeria, Prof. What other human activities, in your opinion, lead to additional greenhouse gases and degradation of the environment?
Well, first, I would want to draw attention to increasing global population. It is assumed that we are now about 9 billion in the world, and the carrying capacity of the world is about 6 billion. In other words, we have excess 3 million people on Earth, billion people on Earth. And that shows you that it will exert a lot of pressure on natural resources, our forest resources,
Absolutely.
water resources, and other resources available for human use. And these have brought about degradation of the environment because the carrying capacity is already exceeded. So with advances in modern science and technology, we are also able to produce substances that are bio-non-degradable. And some of these include plastics, because there are some plastics that take more than 500 years to degrade. That's why the theme of the World Environment Day in 2018 was centers on plastics. And then we also have air pollution. It affects us. Most of our activities, like in our quarries, is done in a way that is not sustainable, and it allows this particulate matter to be airborne. Some of these particulate matter that are airborne, could be dangerous when inhaled. And we also have pollution on our water resources. Most of our industrial settings, produce waste in terms of wastewater, and this wastewater, until recently, are not treated before they are being injected into the environment. We also produce waste. These wastes are also not well treated based on the Basel Convention. Okay. And aside that, our agricultural practices too is one that is a cause for concern. It induces soil erosion, and erosion is a major concern globally. And then we also have overfetching of forest resources for domestics, either for domestic energy or logging, which is done. If you look at the Congo basin that he alluded to, and the Amazon basin in Brazil, these are the two major carbon sink areas in the world. But they are facing a major challenge of unsustainable logging. And this is what the Brazilian government is being forced to address.
But can we really do without, these domestic needs that you're talking about?
I think the emphasis should be on sustainable usage. If you use these resources sustainably, and how do I mean by sustainable usage? You use forest resources in such a way that it will not affect their ability to rejuvenate itself naturally.
Yes, okay.
And so once we imbibe this, like logging, there are codes for logging. If you abide by these codes of logging, it may not lead to depletion or degradation of our forest reserve.
Okay.
And we have what we refer to as protected areas. So these protected areas, because of increased pressure on population, are now being degazetted, and they are now being put to human use. So we must bring back these protected areas as they are, and also
even when they have been built up, because I know that, for instance, in Abuja, when you talk about green areas, a lot of the green areas have been taken over and built up. So what are you going to do about them? A lot of the professionals in that area will tell you that how can you have green areas and people don't have homes to live in developed areas. So they don't seem to understand.
Yeah, it's proper planning. Planning both at the national level and then at the local level. So when you plan and you designate certain areas as protected areas, it should remain so. There is the saying that wild areas must remain wild areas.
Okay.
Yes.
Let me go back to the Conservator General.
Yes.
The theme for this year's World Environment Day is celebrating diversity, biodiversity, or rather diversity now, but why is biodiversity so important that, you know, it is worthy of protection as it is?
Yes, the theme, like you have rightly said, is celebrating biodiversity. Then it came along with a slogan, time for nature.
Okay.
That is the slogan. Now, looking at the theme and the slogan, don't forget, biodiversity also has its own day.
Absolutely.
That's the United Nations
That's May
Day.
22nd.
Yes, May 22nd. So, biodiversity is the focus because the environment, like Prof said, is a space. And this space is occupied by humans, plants, and of course, you have the land. So, there is the interplay between humans, plants, and animals. This interplay is what simply gives the environment the name ecosystem.
Okay.
So in this ecosystem, you have a relationship we describe as a food chain. One species depending on the other, one species depending on the other, one species depending on the other. Once one species is missing in that chain, something will be wrong with the whole chain. Then coming back to your office, to your question, why biodiversity? Biodiversity can simply be defined as the different life forms. And here when you say the different life forms, right from the microorganisms to the macroorganisms, all of us are competing for space in the environment.
Okay.
Don't forget, Prof said, the world has already exceeded its carrying capacity. Now, if it has exceeded its carrying capacity, are we going to move the biodiversity to the moon? We cannot. We therefore have to develop strategies, have to develop ways. That is why the Nigerian government in 1983 developed the National Biodiversity Strategy. The strategy is to guide the government in planning, like he said, as to how environmental management is going to be done. And with this planning, you realize that protected areas are created, though we are losing some, but at the same time, there are efforts to also provide other scientific ways or technological ways of at least being able to survive along with the remaining species that are left. So biodiversity is actually very important, and sustainable use of these resources, like Professor Mama said, is what, of course, is going to keep the world going.
All right. I'll get back to Prof, where I want him to tell me about the lessons, that we can learn with the outbreak of COVID-19 as it concerns the environment. But that will be after the break. Let's pause for a quick message. The program continues in a moment.
The number of the COVID-19 cases in Nigeria is increasing daily, with many more tests ongoing. The battle of testing, isolating, treating, and attending to the affected persons rests heavily on the shoulders of our health workers, constantly putting their lives on the line and at risk to contain this virus, save and protect the lives of millions of Nigerians. To these health workers, we at the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA, on behalf of millions of Nigerians, say a big thank you for all that you have done and are doing. To the security agencies enforcing the lockdown and every other frontliner, we say thank you for putting your lives on the line to save ours. There is no amount of words that can quantify our gratitude. Thank you. This message is brought to you by the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA, Africa's largest television network.
The program is still Nigeria Today, and we have been discussing the World Environment Day. I was asking earlier, Prof, what lessons can we learn from the outbreak of COVID-19, as it concerns humans' relationship with the environment?
Good. Everything on Earth is interconnected. All of us are all interconnected, and let's look at COVID-19, that the origin and then the transmission pathway is a subject of controversy. But what is not controversial is the fact that diseases jump from wildlife to humans. So what is the relationship? We call these diseases zoonotic diseases, like SARS, and then COVID-19.
That's coronavirus disease.
Good. So what is the relationship between these COVID-19 and our environment which we live in? Normally, when natural habitats, are being destroyed through deforestation, wildfires, among others, it reduces the natural habitat for wildlife. Okay. And once that happens, what results is that buffer zones are now completely eliminated. And when you eliminate these buffer zones between wildlife and humans, it therefore means that you have reduced the area available as natural habitat for wildlife. And if this is the scenario, then it presupposes that the interactions and contacts between wildlife and animals become very frequent and
maybe hostile.
Not hostile, but it's something that is frequent and in close proximity.
Okay.
So when you have this scenario, it makes it possible for now diseases, that are mainly the domain of the wildlife to jump from wildlife to humans. So that is the connection between these zoonotic diseases and humans.
Okay. Now, given his explanation about lessons to be learned, what should be the attitude of Nigerians, Dr. Goni?
The attitude of Nigerians from the scenario he has presented, if you look at the increase in the human population, it has a direct link with the decrease in the animal population. Therefore, like what he has said, if diseases do not get wild animals to infect, man becomes an easy vector. So that is one lesson we should learn, that if we continue to kill our wild animals, viruses, bacteria might not have these wild animals to infect, they would rather infect humans.
And the COVID-19 is said to be linked to animals
What
too.
he says is controversial. It's yet to be proven. So we are just postulating.
So allegedly.
Allegedly. But the situation is that once wildlife is not available for viruses and bacteria to infect, man of course become an easy prey. The lockdown all over the world, the restriction in movement all over the world has restrained man at home, allowing animals
to roam free.
To roam free. So that is one lesson, that we should not cross our borders.
Okay.
We should maintain our borders if we do not want to be infected by viruses and bacteria.
Okay.
Because wild animal diseases or animal diseases are human diseases.
But then how do people adapt to climate change or even mitigate it? Because it's also a major factor when we talk about environment, Prof.
Yeah, in the first instance, I would like to add to what you said before I now begin to allude to climate change and the rest and what have you. I think we'll look at what can we do to curb these jumping of zoonotic diseases from wildlife to humans. I think the first thing is we follow CITE, that is the Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species. They have a protocol which says that international trade in endangered species, must be something that is legal, it must be sustainable, and then it should be traceable, so that at least we can begin to monitor the trend, and then when we need to take action. Okay. So CITES, which is the Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species, normally campaign for that. The second thing we need to do just to maintain this buffer zone is that we ensure that we limit the rate at which we destroy our forests, our natural habitat, so that these buffer zones, could still be in existence, and it could serve as a kind of protection against these zoonotic diseases. Remember, COVID-19 is a zoonotic disease, just like SARS and the rest. So that is just the linkage. So thirdly, we must also enhance the quality of laws, environmental laws, of course, and legislation and its enforcement. You could have the laws and legislation, but effective enforcement is another. And then the third aspect is to ensure that we maintain a green economy. Okay. And I think that answers, your question on the climate change. Now that we are bogged down by this pandemic, our focus, will be what happens after the pandemic. We need to rebuild our economy. We need to rejig the economy. But we laid out processes in revamping our battered economy by COVID pandemic. But while we are doing that, all these processes or steps or programs must have a built-in environmental component. Okay. We must have options. Which of these options are less harmful? Or which of these options will have no negative effect on the environment? All right. If that is not possible, then which one has less? And then what are the mitigation measures? Okay. We're beginning to run out of time. Yeah. Quickly, sir, Dr. Goni. Yes. What is the role of government in all of this? I'm told I have just 45 seconds for this.
Well, the role of government in all of this is to, is to roll out policies, guidelines, and laws. And once these policies, guidelines, and laws are rolled out by government, people should key in by at least giving their support to government, so that these policies, laws, and guidelines can be utilized to achieve the desired goals set by government for the people. Remember, governance is for the people. And what should be the role of the National Park Service? Yes. As a part of government? Thank you for this very important question. The role, I have just the role of the National Park Service in this case. Currently, we cover 21,000 square kilometers vegetation cover in this country. So in this case, we are of course in the front as far as climate change mitigation is concerned. Then the Green Bond project, the Great Green One project are all geared towards the green economy, like you have said. Under the Green Bond, so many universities are benefiting from solar power. That is green energy, clean energy, of course. And under the National Park Service, you realize that the forest cover at least absorbs a greater percentage of the greenhouse gases that are being emitted. Okay. So the National Park Service, of course, apart from being the natural bank of biodiversity, it also plays a vital role in climate change mitigation. All right, it's been an interesting conversation, really, and I wish we can go on and on. But that's all time will permit today, I'm afraid. So, Dr. Ibrahim Goni, Conservator General, National Parks Service, thank you for coming on Nigeria Today. Thank you very much for having me. And also, our appreciation goes to Professor Hassan Mohammed,
Member Nigeria Environmental Society. Professor Muhammad is also of the Department of Geography and Environmental Management, University of Abuja. Thank you for your thoughts.
Happy World Environment Day, viewers.
Thank you. Now, Nigeria Today is live every weekday at 7:30 in the evening, and you can watch this and other editions of the program on www.youtube.com/NTA News 24 Hub. My name is Victor Azo. Thank you for your company.